My name is Samuel. I am 81 years old. For almost 3 years, I learned to pretend I was sleeping better than any movie actor. I knew how to control my breathing. I knew how to turn to the right side. I knew how to leave my arm heavy over the blanket so my wife Claire would think I had already passed out. But I was not sleeping. I was afraid. The bedroom clock was always close to midnight when it happened. Her bedside lamp still on, the book open on her lap, her glasses on the tip of her nose. Claire would read a few pages and then stay still, as if she were waiting for something from me. And I pretended not to notice. The cruelest part is that after 54 years of marriage, a woman knows when her husband is really sleeping. She knows by the weight of his body, by his breathing, by the way the silence changes. So I was not fooling Claire. I was only trying to delay the shame. If you are over 60 and have ever pretended to sleep so you would not fail in bed, I want you to stay with me until the end. Because a friend of mine taught me something no doctor had ever told me that way. And before you look in the wrong places, I already left the path in the first pinned comment below this video. You do not need to click now. Just remember this. First pinned comment. I'm going to tell the whole story, because without understanding what was happening to me, you may think it was just another empty promise. It was not. I loved Claire. That was the worst detail. It was not lack of love. It was not lack of desire. It was not lack of memory. I still remembered her 24, wearing a light blue dress at her sister's birthday party. I still remembered the first house we rented. I still remembered the smell of her hair when our children were small, and she slept exhausted on the couch. But my body no longer followed the memory. And when that happens to an old man, he does not lose only performance. He loses courage. He loses his gaze. He loses the desire to go to bed early. He loses the natural feeling of touching his own wife. That was how my marriage began to become too polite. We still had coffee together. We still talked about the weather. We still bought bread on Saturday. But there was an invisible wall in the middle of the bed, and I was the man who helped build that wall night after night, pretending to sleep. Until my friend Ernest appeared on a Tuesday morning. Ernest is 78 years old, a widower, a simple man, the kind who wears the same jacket for 20 years and still calls everyone by their last name. He found me sitting on a bench near a CVS pharmacy in Los Angeles, staring at nothing. He asked, "Samuel, are you sick, or are you just getting old the wrong way?" I laughed without wanting to. He sat beside me and said a sentence I never forgot. There are things a doctor sees in a test, and there are things only another old man recognizes on our face. That hit me, because my doctor said everything was normal for my age. My blood pressure was controlled, my heart within what was expected, my tests acceptable. But nobody asked me what was happening in the bedroom. Nobody asked if I was avoiding my wife. Nobody asked if I still felt like a man inside my own home. Ernest asked. I denied it at first. I said it was tiredness. I said it was my back. I said Claire was also calmer with age. He listened to everything quietly. Then he said, "You are lying to me the same way you lie to her when you pretend to sleep." I almost got up and left, but I stayed. And that was when he began to explain something no doctor had ever explained to me that way.
The male body after 60 does not shut down because of lack of shame. It shuts down because of lack of support. Circulation, hormones, cellular energy, absorption.
4 words I had never put together. Ernest told me I was treating the problem as if it were moral, as if it were weakness of character, as if I only needed to have more confidence. But confidence does not push blood through the vessels. Confidence does not improve cellular energy. Confidence does not correct a body that spent years losing nutrients, movement, sleep, and hormonal signals. That night I came home different. Not cured, not fixed, just different. Because for the first time I thought, maybe I am not finished. Maybe my body is asking for help. And that is why I left in the first pinned comment what Ernest showed me weeks later. I am not asking you to buy anything now. I am asking you to hear the story, and if it hits you inside, then look with your own eyes. First pinned comment. That is where I put the full explanation. The following week I met Ernest again. This time he brought an old notebook. It was not beautiful, bent cover, pages with crossed-out names, notes written with a blue pen. He opened the notebook and said, "I started studying this when I realized I was burying my masculinity too early." I laughed. He did not. Then he pointed to the first word written on the page, circulation. He explained nitric oxide to me in a simple way. He said that when a man is younger, the body produces this molecule better, the one that helps blood vessels relax. When the vessels relax, blood flows. When blood flows, certain parts of the body respond. But after 50, and especially after 60, that system gets lazy. And then the man thinks he has lost desire, but many times he has lost flow. I stayed quiet because that made too much sense. Ernest said, "You can love your woman with all your soul, Samuel. But if the plumbing is closed, the heart alone does not solve it." It was blunt, but it was true. Then he wrote another word, testosterone. I said my test was normal. He gave a short laugh. "Normal for your age is a dangerous phrase. Sometimes it only means they expect little from you." That was when he explained to me the difference between total testosterone and free testosterone. Total is the pretty number on paper. Free is the part the body can actually use. And when a man ages, gains belly fat, sleeps poorly, and accumulates stress, that availability can drop even when the test looks acceptable. He also talked about aromatase, an enzyme that can convert part of testosterone into estrogen as abdominal fat increases. I did not understand everything right away, but I understood enough to become irritated. Because I spent years hearing that everything was normal, while inside I felt as if someone had turned down the volume of my life. The third word was energy. Ernest talked about mitochondria, those little power plants inside the cells. When they get tired, you feel it first in your legs, then in your head, then in your mood, and last in the bedroom. But when it appears in the bedroom, it seems like the problem was born there. It was not. The bedroom is only the place where all the failures appear together. And that changed everything for me. Because for years I thought the bed was my enemy. In reality, the bed was only the mirror. It showed what my body had been trying to say for a very long time. At that point, Ernest turned the notebook page and showed me a list of natural ingredients. Maca, tribulus, epimedium, saw palmetto, fenugreek, alpha-lipoic, forskolin, milk thistle, piperine. I did not know how to pronounce half of them. He said,
Do not start buying anything. First, understand why these names keep appearing. And that is exactly what I did. I began to read, slowly, like an old man who no longer wanted to be deceived. Later, I found all 9 of these active ingredients gathered in a formula called Alpha Vita. And yes, the link is in the first pinned comment.
I am repeating it because men our age often watch, get emotional, close the video, and then cannot find it again. So remember clearly, first pinned comment below this video. But before talking about the formula, I want to tell you what Ernest taught me about the 3 lies that almost destroyed my marriage. The first lie is, this is just age. That phrase sounds mature. It sounds resigned. It even sounds wise. But it can be a trap. Yes, aging changes everything. At 81 years old, I do not jump out of bed the way I did at 40. My right knee cracks. My hand trembles a little when I hold the comp. I forget street names. Sometimes I walk into the kitchen and forget what I went there to get. But one thing is aging. Another thing is abandoning the body and calling it wisdom. Ernest used to say, age charges interest, but abandonment takes the whole house. And I had abandoned many things. I walked little. I slept badly. I ate whatever was around. I took medications without asking much. I did not drink enough water. I spent hours sitting. And I still expected my body to respond as before just because I wanted it to. It did not work that way. The second lie is, one pill is enough and everything is solved. I tried that path. I will not pretend I am holy. Many men try because they are desperate, and sometimes it even works for a few hours. But with me came a bad feeling, headache, a faster heart, a strange anxiety, and worst of all, the feeling of depending on a borrowed key to open a door that should have been mine. Ernest said a hard sentence. You do not want to rent confidence. You want to rebuild the ground where it is born. That stayed with me, because I did not want only one night. I wanted to go back to lying beside Claire without fear. I wanted to become natural again. I wanted to stop turning intimacy into a test. The third lie is, nothing natural is worth anything. That may be the most modern one of all. We live in a time when everything has to seem complicated in order to seem serious. But Ernest showed me that many ingredients studied today had already been used by ancient cultures for centuries. Maca in the Andes, epimedium in Chinese tradition, tribulus in old vitality practices, saw palmetto in men's care, fenugreek in protocols connected to energy and metabolism. He did not speak about it as a miracle. He spoke about it as support. And that word was important. Support. My body did not need to be forced. It needed to be supported. That was when Alpha Vita began to make sense to me. Not as medication, not as a magic promise, but as a practical way to bring together the 9 compounds Ernest had marked in that notebook. That is why I left it in the first pinned comment. So you can look at the list, read, think, and decide without rushing. Maca was the first one I understood. Ernest said Maca was not about becoming young again. It was about energy, endurance, and hormonal signaling. As if the body received a reminder, not a shouted order, a reminder. I liked that idea because at 81, nobody wants to be treated like a machine. We want to be treated like a tired body that can still respond when it receives care. Then came epimedium. The popular name is embarrassing, so I do not even like repeating it. But the active compound, icariin, appears often connected to the male blood flow pathway. Ernest explained it like this. Certain ingredients do not push the body violently. They help natural pathways that already exist, but are weak. Tribulus, according to him, was more connected to drive and male signaling. Fenugreek appeared in conversations about metabolism and hormonal support. Saw palmetto entered the part of male balance with age. Alpha-lipoic caught my attention because of its relationship with cellular energy and oxidative stress. Piperine helped the body make better use of what it was receiving. I did not understand everything at once, but I understood the logic. It was like repairing an old house. You do not replace only the light bulb if the wiring, plumbing, and roof are also bad. You need to look at the whole system. And my system was tired. I started in secret because I was afraid of failing again. That is the part perhaps only another old man understands. I did not tell Claire. I did not tell my children. I did not even tell my doctor in the first week because I wanted to observe it myself. I placed the bottle behind an old vitamin C bottle in the bathroom cabinet. 1 capsule a day. That was all. And before anyone misunderstands, Alpha Vita is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any condition. It is a nutritional supplement. Each man responds in his own time, and some men respond differently from others. I am telling my experience and what made sense to me after researching and talking to Ernest. In the first 2 weeks, nothing cinematic happened. I did not become another man. I did not wake up singing. I did not run down the street. But I started getting up feeling a little less heavy. That was the first sign. Then I noticed I did not nap so much after lunch. Then I began walking to the bakery without turning it into a military mission. Then I noticed my head was clearer. The body seemed less turned off. And then came the change that scared me the most. I stopped avoiding Claire. It was not in the bedroom first. It was in the living room. She was watching television on a cold night with a throw blanket over her knees. I walked behind the couch and placed my hand on her shoulder. A small gesture, something from an old couple. But it had been months since I had touched her without calculating what it could mean afterward. She placed her hand over mine. She said nothing, but I felt that she noticed. That night I went up to the bedroom before the light went off. Claire was reading. The same bedside lamp, the same bed, the same woman. But I was not exactly the same man. I lay beside her and did not pretend to sleep. That was the victory. It was not proving anything. It was not performance. It was not a movie scene. It was simply staying awake beside my wife without running away. She turned her face and asked, "Are you okay?" I answered, "I am trying to be." She closed the book and smiled. If you think that is little, maybe you are still too young to understand. For an 81-year-old man who spent seasons pretending to sleep, his wife's smile in the dark is worth more than applause from a stadium. After that, things started coming back slowly. Slowly is an important word. A desperate man wants yesterday's result, but an old marriage does not recover in a hurry. An old body does not either. I kept caring for myself. I kept taking it. I kept walking. I kept trying to sleep better. And I kept remembering what Ernest used to say. Do not ask the body for a response you are not helping it build. That was the phase when I decided to leave the link in the first pinned comment. Because many men sent me messages asking,
What exactly did you use? And I got tired of answering one by one, so I put it there, first comment, at the top, with the Alpha Vita explanation, the ingredients, and the guarantee. My son Paul did not like it when he found out. He said, "Dad, you are 81 years old. Do you really need to talk about this on the internet?" I asked, "Would you rather men my age keep crying silently inside the bathroom?" He stayed quiet. Because that is what many do. They do not cry loudly. They do not tell their children. They do not tell friends. They do not tell the doctor. They only become more bitter, more silent, more distant. And the wife, who in the beginning tried to understand, one day stops trying. That is the danger. When a woman complains, there is still hope.
When she stops complaining, many times she has already begun saying goodbye inside. Claire had stopped complaining. That was the saddest sign. She no longer asked why I stayed so long in the kitchen. She no longer insisted that I come to bed. She no longer touched her foot against mine during the night. She was learning to live beside me without expecting anything from me, and I almost let that become normal. Ernest died 6 months after that conversation. It was fast. An infection, hospital, complications. I went to his funeral wearing the same dark coat I have worn to every funeral since I turned 70. On the way out, his daughter handed me the notebook. She said, "My father said you were supposed to keep this." Inside, on the last page, he had written one sentence. "Tell old men that shame is not a diagnosis." I kept that sentence. And maybe that is why I am here now. Because I know some man is watching this video with the volume low. Maybe his wife is in the other room. Maybe he is in the car. Maybe he is in the bathroom pretending he is going to shower. He does not want anyone to know he searched for this subject. I understand. I hid too. But listen carefully. Hiding for a week while you try to care for yourself is one thing. Hiding the pain for years until it becomes distance inside the marriage is another. If you want to see what Ernest showed me and what I started using, it is in the first pinned comment. I did not hide it in the description. I did not throw it in the middle of 1,000 links. It is in the first comment because that is where you can find it quickly. Alpha Vita was the formula that gathered those 9 plant-based active ingredients he had in the notebook. I take 1 capsule a day. Simple. No theater. No absurd promise. And there is a 60-day guarantee, which made a difference to me. Because men our age have already seen a lot of beautiful promises. I wanted to know what would happen if a man tried it and felt nothing. The answer was simple. Refund. That seemed fair to me. But I do not want you to buy on impulse. I want you to look. Read the ingredients. See if it makes sense. Think about your situation. Think about what you have already tried. Think about whether continuing to pretend to sleep is really protecting anyone. So, if you are over 60 and you are pretending to sleep, stop treating it like an eternal secret. Maybe your body is trying to say something. Maybe you need to care for your circulation. Maybe you need to look at your energy. Maybe you need to review your hormones, your belly, your sleep, your habits. And maybe you want to see the formula I used as part of this process. It is in the first pinned comment. First comment below the video. Read calmly. You do not need to decide now. Just do not close this page and go back to pretending everything is okay if you know it is not.
Because a silent bed can seem like peace, but sometimes it is only well-behaved sadness.
I learned that late, at 81 years old. With a friend sitting on a bench near a CVS pharmacy in Los Angeles, holding an old notebook and speaking truths I did not want to hear. He taught me what no doctor had told me that way. A man does not fail only because he got older. Many times he fails because he spent years without giving the body what the body needed to keep responding. And when I started taking care of that in secret, Claire noticed before I told her. Not because I announced it, but because I stopped running away. It is already past midnight here. Her bedside lamp is still on. The book is open, but I know she is waiting for me. And today, unlike the man I was before, I am going upstairs before the light goes off. If you want to look at what helped me, go to the first pinned comment. Alpha Vita is there, with the ingredients and the guarantee. If it is for you, it will be. If it is not, that is okay. But at least you will know there is a path before accepting silence as destiny. If you want to sit with me again next week, I will be here. I record these videos on Sundays. Take care of yourself, whatever that means for you tonight.